It will pop up on the Instagram feed. The image will show up of the and should be able to go live.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to what would have been our 90-second fireside chat. Unfortunately, these things happen with live guests and a live show. Sometimes we don't have our guests, and so we have to sort of jump on our own and give you guys a little state of the union of what's going on with the company. And so I've pulled Om away from a lot of busy work that he's been putting together for the company with stories and everything else. And we're going to talk a little bit about the state of the union with Run Try Mag and where we are today and what we foresee us doing in the future. So thanks for joining us. Um, by the way, if you have any questions or comments for us, please drop them into the uh, comment section on whatever platform you're on, because we are live on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. So, Om, thanks for taking some time away from from the busy schedule that you've been maintaining lately, dude.
Yeah, man, it never ends, and it's really a good problem to have. I was, I mean, full transparency, the busy work I was doing was I'm just trying to catch up on stories right now because I've been interviewing so many people and getting so many amazing stories. Yesterday, I had a chance to talk to Jamie June of the Queer Cycle Crew, and today I talked to an amazing athlete who is going for their first 5K, who has club foot, irregular foot length, and just wanted to see themselves in the sport. And um, there's just so many, like, it's hard not to reach out to people and talk to people, right? Because there's just so many like hidden stories, and you're always hearing like, A, like my story doesn't matter, or B, my story's boring. And then you talk to them and you give them that nudge and it's like, like it's just amazing stuff. So
It really
um, honestly, happy to chat about it anytime.
Yeah, I sent off a story to Coach.P.K. Which is Coach Fedra Kennedy. We chatted last week about how she basically went from running 20 minutes using a Timex watch and a pedometer to qualifying for the 70.3 World Championships in triathlon. So I sent over her story to her for approval, and then I've got another one for Mireli Sine, who I will be sending over to her tomorrow. Been working on that. And I know we've got a bunch of other stories coming up with people joining us, on a daily basis for interviews, which is unbelievably fantastic.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is that kind of leads to one of the things that we're working on that I think people should be aware of. We are going to be creating a private Facebook group for those folks that have shared their stories on our website and social media platforms and our magazine as well. We're going to invite you into that private community where we're looking for support for each other for upcoming events, training, that kind of stuff, but then also potentially having advertiser partners provide discount codes in there, maybe codes, I don't know, discount codes in there for those people as well. And so I'm really excited to get that going. And it was all because of Lori and you, and facilitated by Jeremy Dutton, who asked if we should do it, because my first reaction was, man, I'm so busy with all this work. I know Om is killing it with all this work. Lori's killing it with all the work she's doing for us too. Like, how in the world are we going to get this going? But he offered to be a moderator, so I'm excited about it. What do you think?
I'm just so pumped about it. And just the idea of like bringing together our community in a place to talk to other people who have also shared their stories, and just building that is just, it's so freaking exciting. Like, I just can't wrap my head around how amazing that is. And big shout out to Jeremy Dutton. Love his story. And love is enjoying the journey, which I highly recommend checking out as he's on the path to Ironman Maryland, I believe.
Yep.
And just all around amazing guy. And it's just so cool seeing our love for the community reciprocated and people from the community stepping up. And on that topic, like Jeremy Dutton being the moderator is one thing. Then you have guys like, shout out to Brian Goldman and Joe Harden, who I'm going to announce are going to be making their riding debuts with us in March, and other people from the community who are contributing to our website, and it's just exciting.
Dude, I said it to you yesterday, like September, October of 2020, I get off the phone with the owners of Texas Runner and Triathlete magazine. And I look at my mentor, Bill Schroeder, and I said, I don't need to buy their business. I can do this on my own. I literally had no fucking idea what was going to happen, like zero clue, but I just felt it in my bones that it was something that was worth going after. A year and a half later, you join the company as an owner in the business. A year and a half after that, basically, we're here today where we're inches away from having 1,200 followers on Threads. I think we added 200 in the first 5 weeks of this year. We're on the precipice of getting to 3,000 followers on Instagram and 1,400 followers on Facebook. Our LinkedIn keeps growing. Our YouTube channels keep growing. Our newsletter keeps growing. It's bananas, man. Like it's really fucking crazy to be sitting here thinking about all that has transpired in what, 3 years? Like I just, it's amazing.
And to your point, like it has been it's been a year and a half, 2 years in June since I joined ownership. It's almost been 3 years since I wrote one of the very first How It All Started on the website, which, if those of you who are new to the community, I was one of the first people, I think maybe a month after Jason launched the business, to write a story called It Started with a Quarter of a Mile. So and that turned into me being a writer and a social media manager, and now I'm here with the business, and it's just incredible to be a part of this journey. And yeah, it's just, I really like, none of this has happened. It feels like it's happened overnight, but none of this has really happened overnight. I think it's more of like, it's taken us 2 years to get to that overnight. And now, like, we wake up every morning and there's a conversation with somebody, there's a commenting with it, there's people responding to our comments, there's conversations happening with companies and coaches and people who share our vision and mission, and we're just leaning into the voice of the everyday athlete. But none of that has happened overnight. It's been lots of, I think there's honestly been a lot more failures than there's been successes.
Absolutely. Shout out to our guy, Patrick Sweeney, Pat Rocks 12. Thank you, dude, for one, sharing your story with us on our platform, and two, for the positive comments, congratulating us on our success, as well as encouraging us to keep going, because he says we're on the cusp of something great. So thank you, Pat. Look forward to getting you back on our platform. Get your story. Where have you been since the day your story debuted? Because it's been some time, and love to follow up and catch up with you. So we talked about the private community that we're going to be launching, hopefully end of this week, beginning of next week, but definitely by the time March rolls around, we'll have our private community for those that have told their stories on our platform already. But the other thing that we did this weekend is I finally got off my ass and introduced the t-shirts that I've been talking about for, I don't know, 6 months. I remember I talked to Dr. Marie Witt about it when I interviewed her for her How It All Started, and she was like, oh my goodness, you need to do that. Stevie Lynn Smith, shout out to her for being on our side from day one, was like, I would order 10 of those t-shirts. So for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, we introduced a new t-shirt on Bonfire. So if you go to bonfire.com, search for us, Run Tribe Bike, you'll see our newest t-shirt. It says, you keep grinding, I'm going to take a nap. And we put that out there because we want to reinforce this idea that get some recovery days, get some rest days. It's where you grow. And we not only say that about endurance sports and training, right? But we also say it about running a business. Like, I know you and I, a lot of times on Sunday, it seems to happen. It's like, dude, I'm putting my phone away. I've closed my laptop. I'm fucking done with this. Like, leave me alone.
Oh my God, all the time. I will have like I'll have this like stretch. It's so funny because we both have our ebbs and flows and like, dude, I'm so pumped, man. And we're like just putting stories out and on the grind and like just working at it for like a while. And then like in the middle of the day or something, I'll be like, dude, I'm exhausted. And it's just you have to schedule out blocks of rest for yourself. You have to take a break. It's like a race, you know, like sometimes you have to stop and sit down and take a break, but that doesn't mean that you're done. It's just it's just part of like how it works.
I told our community leaders during our monthly meeting yesterday that if they would be able to look at our calendar, honestly, it would look like the logo right over here with our pride flag behind our name, where like we've got red for website links that are coming up, and purple for something else, green for posting to Instagram stories, and some variation of brown for when your social post is going out. And I think there's purple in there for like there's like colors all over the place on our calendars, dude. But it's one of the ways that we can manage to stay on top of everything and efficient, making sure we get things done.
Yeah, and one of the things that I mean, I just want to be like fully transparent with our community and direct with our community. One of the things that we want to make sure we do as we grow bigger and bigger, and this is, and let me know if this is true for you as well, Jason, is like we really want to stay rooted to who we are, like humans of the business. Like it might be day one of the business or day 2000 of the business. We might be at this point or multi-million dollar, but I still want to be commenting with intentionality. I still want to be engaging with people in the community. I still want to be hearing people's genuine stories. And I think as we grow bigger, I'm just making sure like every morning I'm telling myself I never want to lose sight of that because that is such a big part of like who we are. And it's just that authenticity that you guys bring back to us, and that we're in turn, honestly, we're in turn able to be vulnerable with you as well. In a way, it's like healing and powerful for us too, to have these conversations. It's amazing.
Yeah, like I just commented on Brittany's post. Brittany Olson is one of our community leaders, and she was talking about her body and what it looks like, and not feeling guilty. And I just shared with her on that post, which obviously all her followers would see, was, you know, me still dealing with my disordered eating and thinking about what I'm eating and stuff like that. And I told Lori this earlier today, like, it's not therapy, but it's therapeutic to have these conversations with the athletes that we're having them with, or um, being able to share those vulnerabilities through various different platforms that we're on. One of the things that I told you I'm super excited about, and I'm going to be writing about this in addition to, is our February 15th newsletter. So for those of you who are not subscribed to our newsletter, get to it. You can go to our website, right at the top of our website, subscribe to newsletter, click on that, you'll be subscribed. On February 15th, we will have in our newsletter, breaking the stigma, men's mental health. We're going to be talking about it. It's one of the things I want to lean into more and more and more. Isaac Kenyon, I interviewed him a couple of weeks ago, and it was just a great conversation. And it's given me sort of the opportunity and the courage, I would say, to write about imposter syndrome and how it impacts me on, gosh, dude, a daily basis, man. Like, honestly, having you to talk to and Lori to talk to constantly about where the business is, where it's going, the things we should be doing, the things that we need to stop doing. It's all rooted, honestly, in this imposter syndrome for me. And having you guys to bounce these conversations off of makes a huge difference. So I'm really excited to share Isaac's story, and then, you know, add to the breaking the stigma of men's mental health with my own story about imposter syndrome as well.
I'm excited to read both your story about imposter syndrome because I have that in common with you in my own way. Like I deal with the imposter syndrome as well. And we do have to really lean, the three of us really have to lean on each other and like even like build from these conversations, tap into the energy from it to like really deal with that. Cause like I'm telling you, like a couple of days ago, we were having a conversation like, we need to talk to more LGBTQ people. We need to talk to more like
Yeah.
BIPOC individuals. It's like, are we doing enough? Like, how do we make them feel? How do we make people in these groups feel more comfortable?
Yep.
And I had that conversation with Jamie June yesterday from Queer Cycle Crew. I just asked directly, like, how do we do more? Because I don't feel like I'm doing enough. And it's just, you're
And,
right.
and what did they tell you?
Well, they told me that, like for one, praise for the fact that we have the pride flag up and the pride banner up all year long. And this is not us tooting our own horn or anything like that, but the message that we're putting out, so everybody knows, is that pride is not just 1 month for us. Acceptance of anybody, everybody with everybody, no matter what background you're from, is a year-round 365 days rest of my life thing. And so that's why we choose to keep the banner up. And Jamie loved that concept, and I think that it was amazing to get that feedback from somebody within the LGBTQ community.
I'm smiling, dude, because like kind of like when I launched the business, it was like I looked at Bill and I was like, I don't need to buy the business. I could fucking do this on my own. And it was one day where I was going in to change the pride banner out that we have on our website, and I was like, why? Like, why am I fucking doing this? Like they don't stop being prideful. The LGBTQIA plus community doesn't stop being prideful because June ended, right? July 1st, like no more. I was like, what the fuck? Just leave it up there, right? And um, I think sometimes it takes those epiphanies where you're not expecting that sort of thing to happen, and you're like, let's go, let's do it, and you lean into it,
Yeah.
and you run with it.
Yeah. And I mean, there have been the reception has been amazing for it. There are so many positive people in our community. Have we gotten backlash on the other end? Yeah, probably. But like, honestly, like, we're just going to keep leaning into it because at the end of the day, everything that we do is rooted into the fact that we believe that everybody with everybody belongs at the start line, and we want to make endurance sports less intimidating for every person. Now, one thing I talked about with Lauren Waddle today, who has clubfoot, is that she doesn't view herself as an athlete with a disability. She just views herself as a human being. And that's one thing that we really want to maintain, is like, uh, yeah, it's we have to represent those backgrounds. We want to give groups that don't have a voice a bigger voice. But at the end of the day, like, the end game really is that we are telling human interest stories, and we want every single person to be treated equally as a human being on our platform, and just viewed as like Lauren or viewed as Jamie. And then we want other people to see Lauren and Jamie and the Isaacs, and people who are looking for a blueprint, people come from similar backgrounds, to see themselves in the sport and then think, maybe I can do this too.
That's the whole thing right there. You see somebody who you can see yourself in and they're doing the thing, you're going to say to yourself, well, if they can do it, so can I, right? Um, and I think that was I think it's a super important message to get out, because that's the reason why I got this business going in the first place. And what's really cool is having you and Lori support that vision from day one, and continuing to push that vision and mission, and making sure that people do understand that you can come to our platform and share your story. We can interview you. You can write it. It's going to get out there, and we're going to ask questions, and they're going to be hard questions, but we want to make sure that those hard questions get answered, because it's going to have an impact when people read it. One of the things that I love, you mentioned Brian and Joe writing their own stories on our platform, was, this idea that we wanted to be the blogger's blog at some point, where people felt like, hey, I don't want to start my own brand, let's call it, my own business. I want to get the word out there about what I'm going through. Joe dealing with, alcohol abuse, and writing his story about that. He's going to now have a platform to write about all of that stuff. And it just furthers our vision and mission that this is a spot for everybody with everybody, regardless of who you are and what you've gone through in life. And he's now got a platform to share it. And I mentioned it at the beginning of this conversation, like, our platform is growing. It's crazy. not to get all businessy in this conversation, but like we projected 40% growth this year in our platforms when it comes to social and newsletter, and we're already up to almost 7%, and we're only on February 6th. It tells me and reinforces to me that what we're doing is right for our business because of those numbers and what we're seeing. And I can't tell you enough, dude. Like, I tell you privately, but I'm telling you publicly now, like, thank you. Thank you for taking a risk and submitting your how it all started. Thank you for taking a risk and saying, yeah, sure, I'd like to join the ownership group and, betting on yourself to make this work. Cause now we're seeing the fruits of all of that labor that have been going into this business for the last 18 months ish, give or take.
Yeah, I mean, I was just it's funny that you I mean, it's great that you bring that up because I was just going to say thank you for the opportunity because it really means a lot when there are people like you and Lori who believed in me from the start and saw the vision from the start that I could be something in marketing, sales, and I could be something as a business owner. And don't get me wrong, there are days where I'm like, am I cut out for being a business owner? Like it's all the imposter syndrome, right? And so it's been like a roller coaster of a ride, but I could not I mean, it takes like we talk about like standing alone, but it really does take a tribe to do this. And yeah, uh I don't know that there's like we really make an amazing team. And yeah, it's just man, so many just thinking about all the highs and lows that have happened in the last 2 years. I mean, full transparency, April is 2 years since I left my career as a civil engineer.
That's
uh,
nuts.
it's been that long that I've been all in on this thing, man. And like the work is starting to show. And there were moments where it was like, what am I doing? And then there were a lot of the closer we get to like this light and like the closer we move to this aid station, because there are truly no finish lines or this evolution. It's just like I don't think there's been a single day this year where I've been like, this is not going to work out. Like it's like this shit is happening, and it is all because of our incredible, amazing community. And yeah, it's unreal. I have no words, no real word.
So John Duquette at Blue 70 asked me this on one of my very first sales calls when I launched the business. This was in February of 2021. We were planning on putting out our first issue on March 1st of 2021. And he asked me the question, what's your end game with the business? And I was stumped. Like I was flat out stumped. Like
I
that was
remember that.
not a question I expected to hear. And then about a month ago, Michael Fernetti at Firstborn asked me that same question. And I don't know that I have a better answer today than I did, when John Duquette asked me, because I don't know what the end game is. Like, are you looking for, I'd love to sell the business for $10 million. Sure. Like, who would say no to that, right? But the reality is, like, I'm enjoying interviewing athletes. I'm enjoying collaborating with our advertising partners. I'm enjoying the prospecting and the conversations, even though not every conversation turns into a sale. I'm enjoying working with you on coming up with ideas and stuff like that. So I don't know that I have an end game in sight other than to continue to be the voice of the everyday athlete, where we consistently prove that there is a spot at the starting line for everybody and everybody. If I asked you that question, what would your end game, what is your vision of an end game be for Run, Try, Bike? How would you answer that?
I would definitely. I think that hits the nail on the head, man. I want to get as many people as possible to that start line, and people to believe in themselves, people to believe their story matters, people to believe that like they're humans of interest because they are human. They inherently have an incredible story. Uh,
Right.
Again, I can't tell you how many people have said my story is boring, my story doesn't matter, and 10 out of 10 of those people have had incredible stories that I've never heard because they're uniquely your story. And we want
Right.
to my end game is I genuinely want to tell as many of your stories as possible. Uh, and it's just, yeah, that's
Because here's the thing, dude, right? Like in our society, we supposedly reward the grind. We reward the person who does more than the other person. And so with endurance sports, right, if you're racing sprint triathlons, you don't perceive yourself as being as worthy as somebody who does an Ironman. If you run 5Ks, you don't perceive yourself as being as worthy of a story as somebody who does a 200-mile race. Runs Hill 605, you are 100% accurate. Everyone has a story.
Oh,
And
shout out Robbie Pike. His story's coming out on February 14th.
And that is exactly what we are trying to prove here, that if you decide that the half marathon distance is the distance for you, good on you. Enjoy it. You don't have to run a marathon or a 200 miler. If you enjoy Olympic distance triathlons, good on you. You don't have to do an Ironman. You don't have to want to go to Kona. You don't have to want to qualify for Boston. My one and only attempt at Boston ended up with me crying at the finish line. I was like, I'm never fucking doing that again. Like, Boston was eliminated on that day. Actually, around mile 20, it got eliminated when I was like, oh shit, this isn't happening. And it hurt much.
There truly is I think we sometimes get caught up, at myself included in this, get caught up in the game of comparisons and get caught up in the ante of like what's the next big thing, what's the next big thing, and like I'm not good enough because I'm not at the top tier of like these people doing 200 or 300, or these people at the Olympic trials, and these people over here doing this, and these people summiting this mountain. And it's just like to me, the conversation I had with Lauren earlier today was, it's all up here and it's all here. Like, what are you doing to push yourself here and here? What are you overcoming? Because to me, like, there might be two people walking down the block, but two people might have a totally different story. There might be a person with the 5K who has their own story. There might be a person who just walked down the block, and looking at it from the outside, they might be like, oh, my story's not that great because I'm not doing a 5K. I'm not doing 100. I'm just walking down the block. But what if that person is dealing with a disability? What if that person just had surgery or something, and it was a big goal for them to walk even down the block? What if they were paraplegic or something and just started walking again? Like, it's the things in here and here that matter the most. And it's all about triumph of the human spirit.
Well, here's the crazy thing, right? So, like, on March 2nd, I'm going to be in LA. I'm running the single track Stampede 22K. A 22K, right? Slightly about a half marathon distance. And compared to me racing a 100 miler, doing the half marathon distance should be not a problem, right? But it has almost 400 foot per mile of climbing. I am freaking out, right? Like, holy shit. Like, are we literally going up the mountain? Do I need grappling hooks and things like that? Like, and so like trying to compare distances also doesn't make much sense, because you could go run a flat 50 miler and it might take you as long as running a half marathon that got 400 foot per mile of elevation gain, right? And so you can't really compare the two. And Kira McGraw wrote for us about a year ago the Comparison is a Thief of Joy article. It's on our website, and she nails it. She talks about coming back from injury and getting back into running, and how trying to compare one thing to another was stealing the joy of running from her. And I think if we can emphasize that enough, where people start to believe in their own abilities and their own enjoyment in their own training and racing of their own distances, then the enjoyment of the sport would grow even more.
I agree. And on that topic, speaking of our own journeys and enjoying our own journeys, I highly recommend checking out our long series of stories, including Jeremy Dutton's. Our Enjoying the Journey series is just phenomenal. It's a long series where we follow athletes on their journey, either to their A race or like on some sort of journey that just can't be encapsulated in one story. And on February 12th, you have another part of your ETJ coming out for Lake Sonoma 50.
Yeah, and as a little peek into that, just know that the entire month of January, I basically spent being sick on the couch, coughing, sleeping as much as possible, fevers. It was fucking awful. And so, the article is about what happened in January into this first week of February and what I'm going to overcome, what I'm overcoming and pivoting and adjusting on my way to Lake Sonoma in April. So yeah, February 12th, that comes out. Um, and then we've also got stories with John Windsor, 71 years old, dealing with a heart condition, a knee replacement, who's looking to run his first marathon after 30 plus years. Shout out to our guy, Andrew Marmion, who is looking to get the world majors done, with his first being the London Marathon here real soon. And then I'm also talking to J. Patrick Hudson, who's running his first ultra trail event coming up here in a couple of months. And like, it's just cool, man. People just like, yeah, let's chat about this thing that I don't know how it's going to turn out, right? Like, we're asking them to talk to us for 3, 6, 9 months. There's no guarantee that they're going to finish the race. There's no guarantee of a PR. There's no guarantee of any of it. And they're like, let's tell a story.
Yep. Then the only guarantee really is the journey that you're going to go on. And that's why we call it enjoying the journey. And on February 27th, I'm going to announce this here for the first time. I have part 1 of my enjoying the journey coming out as I move towards the Triple Crown of 200 milers this year. So I'll be talking a bit about following up to my across the years 300-mile race article. I wrote an article about loop races called Chasing the Sun on the website, and I'll be following up on recovery from that, the path to recovery from that, and moving towards my first race of the season. And yeah, it'll be a journey all the way from February 27th into October 27th. So stay tuned for one part every month. And I promise to be as open and vulnerable as possible. And the message I always drive home is that I started with the quarter of a mile. Now, whether you want to get to or like doing the 200 or 300, or whether you want to do a half marathon or qualify for Boston or do something else, like Jason says, like, do what sets your soul on fire. But I really just want to share my story and put it out there because, one, the community has been so receptive, and two, if I'm demanding vulnerability from all these amazing everyday athletes, then I myself have to open myself up to you, so that you know that there is a place for you in this community and that you feel welcome as well. So I am an open book and I will be fully vulnerable in that story. And also, you can reach out anytime and ask questions to me or Jason about anything. We're endurance athletes and everyday athletes ourselves, and willing to answer anything from our anecdotal experience.
So let's put a bow on this. So those of you who are joining us, we started out by letting you know that we are launching a private community on Facebook with Jeremy Dutton, who is going to be the moderator. He's told his story on how he got started. He's also going through the process of Enjoying the Journey series with us as well. He and Lori are going to be moderating the private community on Facebook, which is going to be invites to those of you that have shared your stories on our platforms already. And as you come along and share your story, we'll add you in there. It's going to be a community for support, for inspiration, motivation, ask questions of other athletes. And as we get more marketing, advertising partners, we'll drop discount codes in there as well. The other thing is we have our first merch launch on Sunday. It's already out there. It's a t-shirt to help you remember to make sure that rest and recovery are part of your training plan. T-shirt literally says, "You keep grinding, I'm gonna nap." And so you can get those over on Bonfire. We have links everywhere. If you're on Instagram, you can see the posts that we have up there. Same thing on LinkedIn. We posted it today. Twitter has had it. We'll share it there though routinely. Get yourself, 1 or 10 if you need them to keep reminding yourself. And then lastly, the other thing is, while we're active on our own platforms on a daily basis at Run Try Mag, we've also do podcast interviews on other people's platforms. And so I just want to let you know that for myself personally, and then Om chime in, you're going to be able to find me on 3 podcasts coming up here real soon. One I did with Kyle White, who hosts the top 10 another top 10 podcast. The conversation we had was this time was top 10 movies that you would always rewatch, kind of thing. The second podcast I was on with Adam Lee, who runs community, what's it called? Community trail running. He's got a podcast there and a Substack. He's also the event host for the Trail Running Film Festival up in Vancouver and Edmonton and Calgary and a couple of other places. We have his story coming out on our platform here real soon. And then Stevie Lynn Smith is launching a podcast that should be coming out in April. I interviewed with her, did her podcast last week. So those are three places that you'll hear and see me on podcasts coming up. What about you?
So I was just on a podcast called Run Yogi Diaries, where I talked about mental health in South Asian community. I will be on the Golden Adventures podcast. I just did a recording with them in January, so that should be coming out in March or April. And I also did an interview a couple weeks ago with Cindy Kuzma and Carrie, I'm butchering names right now, but it is Carrie, on the Injured Athletes podcast, where I talk about my journey coming back from the Moab 240 and recovering from injury and changing my mindset. So, you can find us on plenty of podcasts, and we've already been on plenty of media too. So I'm sure if you do a Google search on Jason or myself, you'll definitely find a lot of things out there.
Easier if you just go to runtrimag.com, click on news. The podcasts that we've been on already are out there for you. Yep. Trails to 100 podcast, we've been on there. That's up there. Another top 10 podcast is up there too, and a handful of other ones. So you can go there and find us over there. But thank you all for joining us today. Thank you for being a part of our community. We're really excited to see you guys joining us, telling your stories, and we really do enjoy sharing your stories with our readers and followers. So thank you very much. Owen, thank you for taking about 30 minutes away from all the business that you've got to take care of. Appreciate it, man.
Oh man, I appreciate you and appreciate the community. And thank you so much, everybody, for what you do. You help keep us inspired and help us through some of the lower moments and stuff, especially when it's like I'm exhausted. And then I have a conversation, and you guys are just amazing.
We'll see you later.